Hi, Julie here from Copy What I Use for Revision, and to today's tip and technique for parents who want to help their children with GCSE revision. In today's video, I'm actually going to show you a tip that can help your child with any sort of revision, but in particular today's revision, I'm going to show you how to learn a list relating to history in under 5 minutes. And the list we're going to learn today is the chronicle order of different kings and queens' houses throughout the ages. And I'm actually going to teach you how you can help your child to learn lists such as this in under 5 minutes. Okay, so the way that I do this is using what we call the journey method, which was actually used as far back as Roman days, when they used to use it to impress their peers with their good memory skills. So to do this, I'm actually going to plan out an imaginary journey using rooms in my house I used to live in 5 years ago. And that's powered to how powerful this technique is, because I can still remember it over 5 years later, just memorising these rooms. Okay, so the first one on the list we're going to learn for this history list is going to be the Normans. So I remember that by placing Norman Wisdom in one of my bedrooms. Now, for parents who actually can remember, who are old enough to know Norman Wisdom, he was a very famous comedian. But I mean, you might be a younger parent who can't relate to Norman Wisdom, so you need to actually relate to something that you will remember. For example, you could have a man standing on the map of Norway, Norman, just anything that will actually make you think of Norman. Then go into another room. In my example, I'm in a different bedroom, and in there I've got a plant, and that is to remind me of Plantagenet. In the next room, we're going to try and memorise Tudor. Now, luckily enough, I work with a gentleman called Tudor, so I've just got Tudor sitting on the chair in a bedroom, and that's how I remember Tudor. Now, obviously, if you don't know any Tudors, then just try and think of something that will actually make you remember two, like you could have two of something in there, Tudor. In the next room is going to be Stuart, because they were the next house. Now, I actually remember it because I was fortunate enough to work with a gentleman called Stuart as well. But again, you could remember it by Stuart Little, a cartoon mouse, or by Stuart Crystal, whatever it is will make you think of Stuart, then just place that imaginary item in that room. Now, in the next room, should be a really easy one to remember. I've got Prince William, who's really hungover. He's had a really heavy night the night before, and he's hungover. And that's going to remind me that that's going to be Hanover, because the House of Hanover is the next one that comes in the list of houses. Okay, and then in my imaginary journey, I then go downstairs into the kitchen, and I've got Prince Edward there, and he's actually playing the saxophone. Now, that's to remind me that Edward VII was the only king that actually came in the house of Saxe-Coburg. Okay, so that's how I remember sax, is by saxophone. And then finally, I go into my dining room, and there is our current queen, Queen Elizabeth, and she's actually holding up a big picture of Windsor Castle, and that's to remind me that the final one on the list is Windsor. So just by putting those imaginary items in imaginary rooms on a journey, I actually can memorise in chronicle order the houses, the various kings and queens, which can come in particularly handy for subjects like history. But obviously you don't have to use a history list for this journey method. You can use any list whatsoever. You just place items that actually make you think of the items on the list, and then just connect them up via an imaginary journey. Okay, so I'll just recite them again for you. There was Norman, Plantagenet, Tudor, Stuart, Hanover, Saxe-Coburg, and finally Windsor. And that's how easy it is to learn lists like this in under 5 minutes using almost magical tricks. Now, I am actually fortunate enough to have found a cool book that I use who actually give more examples of memory techniques such as this that work like magic tricks to actually put information into your child's head that will last them not just for the GCSEs but for a lifetime, because it's actually a way of storing information to long-term memory. So I would strongly urge you to buy this book if you want to find quicker and easier ways for your children to learn boring lists of information, and I'll pop a link in at the bottom of this video. Okay, so that's it for today's tip and technique and how you can help your child with GCSE revision. Speak to you again soon.